Viral romance novels are basically keeping the publishing industry afloat, but are they any good? Let's talk about that. Or rather, let's talk about a specific book. Now, I'm not on TikTok or Tumblr anymore, but even I managed to hear about Heated Rivalry. It's not the kind of thing that I normally read, mainly because it doesn't have anything that I personally find appealing. I mean, ice hockey? Ugh. But I thought, wouldn't it be fun to just read it for the channel and then analyze the storytelling of it? I mean, surely there has to be something else besides the bedroom scenes that people find appealing about it. And even if there isn't, well, what a nice learning experience for us all. I know I'd probably get a lot more engagements if this video was like, this book was trash and here's everything I hate about it, and the readers, they're stupid. But like, that's very much not the vibe of this channel, and I wouldn't like doing that anyway. Because you know what? I didn't hate this book, so I don't know. Was it for me? No, for many reasons, but I've actually read worse. In case we haven't met yet, hi, I'm Katri, I'm your new writing bestie, and this is Protagonist Crafts, the place for people who are kind of obsessed with that whole writing thing. I like to call myself a self-taught plot technician, and I love reading other writers' work and analyzing them for the techniques that they've used. And that's exactly what I want to do with this video. Did I think this book is worth reading, or is it just PORN for people who like hockey? But before we begin, I just want to say that even if you thought that this book was flawless, it was the best book ever, it's your favorite, then nothing I say in this video is going to change that, and I'm not trying to change that. I think you'll find that you have a much nicer time existing in this world if you stop trying to get everyone to agree with you about everything. And I really don't see the point in trying to police what other people are reading. I mean, did you read something? Great, you finished an entire book. I'm so proud of you. Why would it matter what the book is about? And especially, why would it matter that it's something that I wouldn't read? Why do we all have to read the same things? Who cares? And really, people are writing books, with their own little hands instead of using AI. And then other people are purchasing these books with their own hard earned money. That's exactly what I want to see in the world. So I'm happy that you're reading. No judgment in this video or on this channel in general. So if you get that, we can get started with this book. And what I knew about Heated Rivalry before I started reading it was basically nothing. I knew that it was about ice hockey and gay romance, and I assumed there'd be a lot of sex scenes. And this book begins with a prologue, and I know a lot of writers have a lot of opinions about prologues. But there's the right way to use them, and then there's the wrong way to use them. And the wrong way is always the one that doesn't really bring anything interesting to the table. It isn't really doing anything. And unfortunately, I feel like that in this book, the prologue didn't really do anything. Like, we knew that these two people would get together. So there wasn't like, oh, well, they're together here. I wonder how they're going to get there. And it didn't bring any kind of an intrigue in there. So I didn't really see the point of it. But then again, you do need to think of your audience. So if every single fan of this book thought that, yeah, the prologue, it was great, it really enhanced my experience of the book, then that was the right decision. But personally, I just didn't like it, and I wouldn't do it like that. I think it would have been more interesting if it was like a more isolated snippet from the future, and then we would, in the beginning of the book, wonder like, oh, I wonder how they're going to get there from this situation. But there was just nothing like that in there. So yeah, when the actual story begins, these two guys that this book is about, Shane and Ilya, they are 17, and I'm glad that there isn't actual sex scenes when they're still underage. Thank you for that. And as the story progresses, they are, I think, 25 at the end of this book. And I couldn't wrap my mind around that. In my mind, they were always like 35. And I think part of that is, it isn't just that, I'm 37, so I'm finding it hard to imagine people in their early 20s. And I don't necessarily want to read sex scenes about people that are, 20. But it's just that these characters, they didn't sound very young. So it's like maybe they could have been written a bit differently. And I heard that this book was from enemies to lovers. And I didn't really feel like it was, because, well, first of all, yes, your characters, they can get together, physically, before they actually become lovers. Like in an enemies to lovers story, that like these two people and they have or they think they have very good reasons to like dislike each other and be each other's enemies or rivals. But then over the course of the story, they gain some kind of a new understanding either about each other or the world or about themselves, and then develop some kind of feelings for this person before they get together for real. But I don't feel like this was the kind of story because they didn't really get over any kind of like differences between them. So if you're hoping to write an enemies to lovers story, then do have a compelling reason for the two people to be like enemies or rivals. And yes, by now you might be like swooping in your ice hockey skates and saying, well, they were in rivaling ice hockey teams. Of course, they are real enemies. But that was a part of the story that I found it really difficult to accept. Like just the premise that, oh, they're from rivaling teams. They're enemies on ice. That's why they can't be lovers. To me, it was just like, is that an actual thing that people care about? Like, I find it hard to take ice hockey that seriously. I'm sorry. Like at the end of the story, Shane's mom is like, oh, but you hate him. Or when she learns that Shane and Ilya are together. And it's not just like, lady, you're like 50. Do you actually believe that stuff? Like, isn't it like, what's it called? Like wrestling when they got the characters and they're like supposedly fighting and they're like enemies and oh, this and this person. No. So I don't know. I just feel it's like that. It's like it's all show and nobody actually cares about it beyond the ice hockey matches, and they don't actually believe that these people are enemies. Maybe I'm the only one who doesn't see this. But it's just like it didn't feel like a compelling enough reason for me for these two people to be enemies. And yeah, maybe I just don't understand ice hockey. I do come from an ice hockey crazy country, not Russia or Canada, but it's like the ice hockey bug. It has passed me. I am immune to it. So I don't know. Maybe I'm just a loser who doesn't understand this stuff. But yeah, and these two guys, they've got great banter in many scenes in this book, but I don't feel like really that there's enough tension between them. And if we're supposed to buy into the idea that they are enemies on ice, I think I can't believe I'm saying this. I've never said this before, and I will never say this again. Just come closer when I say it. This book should have had more ice hockey. So the enemies on ice show us them being enemies on ice. There wasn't nearly enough ice hockey there, making us believe that these two guys, they are enemies. So it's just like I feel like that was a missed opportunity there. And in general, I feel like not much happens in this book. I was at around like 30%. I read this on my Kindle. Oh yeah, I forgot to say that. I'm going to show you the cover so I can prove I actually got this book. I got the idea for this video on like Sunday morning. Here it is. And then about 10 minutes later, I purchased this book. It would have been more visually appealing if, I had the actual book in my hands, but there you go. So completely forgot what I was saying. Oh yeah, I was bored at like 30%. It's like nothing's happening in this book. There's like a fifth time that these guys are together, and it's just what else is happening here? And later they like with Ilya, he's got a bit of his own plot with his father and their relationship, and then when the father dies later, but it's just very later on. And then Shane doesn't really have anything going on for him besides hockey and then doing Rozanov. He does go out with a film star lady at one point, but it's just like, where's the plot? Where's the stuff that happens? And just so much of this was just internal monologue. And yes, you can use internal monologue in your story, but it shouldn't be like the main thing that is carrying the story forwards. And I just feel like for most of the book, we were either anticipating something happening, and then it happens off stage, and then the characters are reacting to it. So we don't really see anything else happening besides the sex scenes. So it just, for me, it made the book kind of boring. It was like nothing is happening here. So there could have been some kind of an interesting story there, I think. So it could have been better. Like usually in romance novels, there's like two layers. So there's the in a layer of the relationship stuff and the feelings and stuff. And then there's the outer layer with this, which is like the stuff that happens. Does she have a successful bakery that is now competing with this Starbucks that is next door? Stuff like that. Or are they on board Titanic? Something like that. So yeah, again, like I said earlier, which I said I wasn't going to say it again, but maybe that should have just been more hockey. They should have had some other kinds of goals besides their relationship. So I would have just liked more substance there. It doesn't have to be anything deep, but some kind of a goal like that they're trying to get. I've also highlighted parts of this book that I liked, so I will read some of them. Rozanov had turned 18 too, just last week, which Shane knew because he was obsessed with him. I really liked that bit. It was funny, I think. Just Shane is pathetic, and I like that. I like it when a male character is a bit pathetic. But I feel like they should have leaned more into it and make him more pathetic. And then Rosanov's character, well, I started calling them their first and last name now. Whatever. I'll call them whatever I want. All right. He's like this gruff Russian man. And it's like, I really liked his character in that way. But again, they could have maybe leaned more into that without it being like this whole stereotype. But yeah, kind of, I didn't dislike these characters. All right. I just feel like there would have been something more. Maybe a few sex scenes less that could have maybe built the characters somehow. And I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty details of the writing, like dialogue tags and stuff like that. For now, this isn't the point of this video. But I just wanted to say I had highlighted, he heard Rozanov panting in Russian. How do you pant in Russian? I would like to know. Please let me know. I don't think I can pant in any language. And another bit I've highlighted. Very pretty. Rozanov teased. Look, doll. You're panting up too. Rozanov leaned on top of the boards and grinned. Yes, but I'm not pretty. I'm sorry for the accent. I did try reading it with a normal voice and it wouldn't happen. But yeah, there were quite a few snippets that I enjoyed and, made me laugh. And I do mainly like the dynamics between these two characters. But again, I just wished that the writer had leaned more in and just made it bigger somehow. And I guess my biggest problem, besides the lack of actual plot, was that they didn't really have a proper conflict between them. It was just like, oh well, I guess Shane is now dating this film star, and they're not really talking to each other. They're not talking about their feelings. Maybe they're meeting up and not really saying what they're feeling. And it's just like such a cowardly conflict, in my opinion. I would have wanted more, some kind of an actual falling out and conflict, some kind of an altercation there. And also, when you have a story and there's some kind of a problem there, the characters should be active in solving that problem, especially like in a romance novel, because they need to get over something. Maybe some kind of a belief, about themselves or other people or about the world, or they need to change their mind about something, or just something needs to change, and they need to actively do that, right? And this just didn't really happen in this story. Oh, and I forgot to mention when I was talking about the stakes. And it's like, yes, Rozanov comes from Russia. And well, I know, I would have known right from the beginning of this story, like, okay, this could be a complication. But it should have been shown in the story a lot earlier on, and at like 20% the first time that this could be a problem. And then also know that, homophobia is a big problem in many sports circles, especially in ice hockey, which is like masculine sports for masculine men. But again, it should have been shown a lot earlier. I did highlight a bit where someone called one of the guys with the F word. It should have been shown much earlier so that we would have been like, oh yes, we know why this could be a problem. So that stuff, it should have been shown a lot sooner than it was actually shown. But yeah, so how do they conquer the attitude of their fellow ice hockey players? Well, they don't. They wait until someone else comes out of the closet, and they're like, all right, well, I'm following the slipstream of this coming out, and maybe we can make this work since this person made this work. They didn't actively do anything. And then when Shane was going out with what was she called? Rose, I think. She said that, you might just be gay. And she initiated this like breakup. And it's just like, again, he didn't do anything. He was just passively waiting for someone else to do something. And then towards the end, when they're together, together, and they get caught by Shane's dad. Again, they didn't do anything. They were passively waiting for someone to catch them in the act instead of, coming out themselves. So it's just like, why aren't you working towards solving this problem? Why are you just passively waiting for something? So it's like that doesn't make up for a very appealing story. Like, yes, these were fun and interesting scenes, but when you look at these characters, they didn't really do anything. So if the passage of time and other people's actions are the only thing that are solving problems for your main character or main characters, then I don't know, you're not doing your best. You're cheating yourself out of your best potential, and you're cheating your readers out of the best possible story. So make your characters more active in solving their problems. And I really liked the scenes where these two characters were interacting with other people. I felt like they were good scenes, but I just wished there'd been more of them. And again, some kind of a plot there with other people. And something that I really didn't like I think I already mentioned the inner monologue. Or did I? I can't remember. I'm recording this video for the second time because there were problems in the first video. And I'm still trying to recover from COVID-induced brain fog. And there's just so many other storytelling techniques. It sounds very fancy when I say that, but just how you're telling your story besides dialogue and inner monologue. And especially with the story's world, we didn't really see it. And it's just like, it felt really clinical. Like, yeah, sometimes, they were like, yes, we went to this cottage and there were these big windows and a shiny kitchen. And it's just like, none of that is interesting. There's a way to show the story's world to your readers that is engaging and it carries the story forwards, and that also reveals something about the characters. And none of that stuff did anything like that. And I didn't really see it. I should have been able to smell this book. Locker rooms, especially ice hockey, locker rooms and ice hockey players and their whole bags of, equipment, just very stinky. This book didn't make me feel like this is a very, very stinky world. I felt like I was inside a sanitized bubble. And I was hearing some dialogue there and someone's thoughts, but that was I don't know, not an enjoyable way to experience a story. And there was one good bit that I liked that I'm going to use as an example as soon as I find it. Shane picked up the book and flicked the end of the bookmark with his finger. It had been nestled between pages 41 and 42 for over a month. So that is good because Shane is interacting with their environment, with his environment, with the book. And then they're saying how the bookmark has been, between these pages for over a month. So the writer didn't have to say Shane hadn't been reading this book for a long time. They dropped in that information while the character is like interacting with their environment, and we understand instantly what this means. So this kind of stuff, it was largely missing from this story. There was that bit that I liked, but there should have been more because it felt very clinical. And there's other ways to share information with your readers besides dialogue and inner monologue. I read this dark romance novel last year because, again, I wanted to see what the fuss was about. And I wanted to be like, I'm giving this book a chance. I'm not going to be like, this is trash. Was it trash? Well, kind of. There was the same problem there. It was just inner monologue all the time. It's just like so infuriating. I've got enough of my own inner monologue going on all the time. It's just not effective storytelling. So I wish these people would read other books and then see how it's done. The last thing I'm going to mention is that this book could have been better if it was like about 100 pages shorter. And just the pacing of it with regards to the plot line, it could have been different. So I think there should have been a longer time in the beginning where these two idiots weren't getting it together yet, and there was the tension, sexual tension. But there isn't enough of that. It's just almost as soon as they're having their first interaction together alone, away from other people, it leads to sex. And it's just like, The writer could have held on for longer until they get to be together. And then at the end, when they finally get clear with their feelings, and this point here, and then the end, there was too much there. It just sort of fizzled out. So I would have moved it towards the end and maybe cut some pages of the mushy bit there. Because when characters say "I love you" to each other, it just all of that attention, it is gone. So it was just like sort of like wobbly towards the end. So I think this would have been a lot better and more effective book with about 100 pages less. But again, the audience of this book, maybe they wouldn't have liked that. Maybe they needed all those pages and all those sex scenes, and that is fine. You are writing, whoever you are, whatever you're writing, you are writing for your audience, and you need to consider the audience. And if this book has apparently been a massive success, so clearly they're doing something right. But is that thing just the sex scenes, or is there something else that people like? And that's exactly what I wanted to see for myself. So yeah, like I said in the beginning, if you disagree with me completely, that is totally fine. I'm not here to convince you otherwise. I just wanted to analyze this book and talk about this. This is very different from my usual content. So if you just found me, hi, I don't talk about ice hockey romance novels like ever. This will be the only time, I'm sure. And like I'm not going to read this book again. I'm after pressed stop on my phone and stopped filming, I will delete it from my Kindle. But it's just like I didn't hate it. I read worse books, ones that weren't ice hockey smut, and it's like I didn't entirely enjoy it because, like I said, I found most of it kind of boring. But it's just like it's not terrible. There's no reason to be like, oh, people these days, like it's just a book, And there were things that I found funny and entertaining. And the point of this video was not to trash anyone. I just wanted to talk about the plots and things that I would have done differently. So yeah, if you enjoyed this video at all, do lightly tap the like button. And if you'd like to see more videos about the art of storytelling and about being a writer in today's busy world, you've got other stuff to do besides writing, do subscribe, and I will see you in another video.